Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff. Has everyone else played Baldur's Gate 3?
Hopefully a lot.
All the times we weren't recording, it was nice to just be like, oh, great, we've got Monday free for Baldur's Gate 3.
Yep. Oh, man, such a good game.
Are you going to continue with the rest of your introduction?
This is a board gaming podcast?
Yeah, that's it. That's all it was.
I don't. It's also been so long since we recorded. I don't remember what any of it is.
It's been like 6 weeks.
It has been.
I think this is our longest gap ever.
Probably.
Yeah.
Almost certainly. I mean, there may have been one at the very beginning of COVID.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
We've basically only had one chance to record in the last 6 weeks.
And Jeff was definitely
I was
ill.
sick because I got sick from Gencon.
Yeah, we missed one because of Gencon. And then we missed one because you were sick after Gencon.
Because we were going to record that Monday. And I was like, nope, I am quite sick.
And because of my bullshit work schedule, it's like we get 2 Mondays, and then if we miss those, we don't get to record the next 2 Mondays.
Yeah.
Yes. Those were, so 4 ago.
Yep.
So we'll have this episode, and then we'll have 2 weeks off, and then we'll be back. So, unless I find a new job, which I don't know.
Keep looking.
Prospects. Not looking hot. I'm about to just pay somebody to fucking redo my resume for me because apparently I suck at it. Nobody calls me back.
Oh.
Anyway.
Just lie on it.
Just lie.
Like lie.
I have tried that, and it has not worked.
Say you were a president's nephew, and then just sort of...
That is easily verifiable with a Google search. I'm not going to lie about that.
All right.
There's nothing you do.
Yeah.
Nope.
I mean, I didn't say U.S. president. I just said a president.
Sure.
A nephew of a Hungarian president.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with him.
Anyway, this is a board gaming podcast, and so we're going to talk about board games now.
Baldur's Gate 3 is like a board game.
Baldur's Gate 3 is basically a board game. It even has dice rolls. We should just talk about Baldur's Gate 3 the entire
We're going to talk
episode.
about Baldur's Gate 3 later.
For actual board games, because, again, of the same bullshit work schedule that makes it impossible for me to record this podcast, makes it really hard to find time to play board games. I've missed more game nights in the last year and a half than I had in the previous, 8 years before that. Real depressing stuff. But I have still found some time for some board games. I've played a large amount of Spirit Island. That's probably the game I've played the most over the last 6 weeks. Me, Paul, Eric, and Megan play 4-player pretty regularly. We played this past Wednesday at game night. We got there early. Didn't get there as early. Well, 3 of the 4 of us got there roughly as early as we intended. One of the 4 of us was stuck in work meetings. Paul.
Yeah, I was going to be like, Paul?
And of course, he was the one who actually had the copy of the game, so we couldn't even set it up until he got there.
Is that the new new Spirit Island stuff?
With Nature
It
Incarnate.
does have Nature Incarnate, yes.
Okay.
Did
Paul finally get his?
Paul has finally received his. I think the main thing that was holding Paul up is he had ordered some other fancy tokens or something that made his.
Don't you talk
what
to me
happens.
about fancy components and stickers for your original Game Trays printing of the Terraforming Mars, and it taking another 3 months after they were delivered.
Oof.
Because stickers.
Oof.
Yeah.
Not great.
Zach has inherited those, actually.
I think, yeah.
Oh.
I also
Nice.
never play my copy. So.
Yeah.
Great. But yeah, Spirit Island continues to be really good. We played a lot. We play usually level 4, 3, 4, 5 on the adversary scale. Eric doesn't like the scenario, so we don't usually play those. I've played with a good chunk of the spirits from the new expansion, and they're really good. A lot of them are a lot more complicated, definitely not as newbie friendly, but they did have that target box that came out that had some very
Horizons or something.
Yeah, Horizons of Spirit Island.
How do you feel of this one as an expansion?
I like it overall. It adds a lot of really cool mechanics, I think. And
Are
nice thing,
they just tied to
the spirits?
The
yeah.
spirits? Okay. So
Yeah, there's not really anything that has backward stuff to older spirits.
but also nothing because it was the first expansion added events or something like that.
Yeah,
there's
nothing,
nothing
like that.
Okay.
No, this is basically just bigger and more spirits. A few new like fear cards and blight cards. I think there are some new event cards that get mixed into the event deck, but no like all new mechanics.
More cards, but more things, but not new things. Okay.
Yeah, some of the spirits have like new mechanics that weren't in the game previously. Like one of them is like you can have an Encana, which is like a really powerful token that you can then power up even further that lets you do special things in areas where it's at. For some spirits, it lets them move around and like do a lot of damage. For other spirits, it like wherever that is, invaders don't do any of the stuff on the invader cards, like no exploring, building, or ravaging, different stuff like that, depending on the spirit. So.
Didn't you have some game where there was like the entire supply of cities, settlements, and explorers was on like the same space?
That is a hefty exaggeration of the number of everything that was in one corner. But yeah, so Eric was playing in that game. Eric was playing a spirit that lets him like suck invaders into his mythical void and then later vomit them out into a land. And he kept vomiting them out into the same land that was on my board. And I was able to keep like ignoring that for purposes of like ravage or something. Like there's some way I had an ability that let me like downgrade things into smaller versions. So I could turn like a town into 2 explorers because usually that's a little bit easier to kill or manage. And so I was doing a lot of that. So he was vomiting towns and cities, and then I was converting them into explorers, and it was just this big fucking huge.
It was like a couple dozen pieces that was on that one location.
The location was completely full with invaders. Okay. There was not really much room for new invaders. It was a major metropolis on the little tiny peninsula. The rest of the island was almost completely empty by the end of the game.
All
except
5
for
boroughs
the metropolis
of New York, all into one space of this island.
Correct.
That was otherwise uninhabited.
Yes. So, the most recent game we played at game night, it was one we played, I think, against England, and they put towns out like a motherfucker. And so our map was at one point desperately full of towns and cities. But we were able to still win. We haven't lost any of them. So that's been nice. Outside of Spirit Island, I haven't played a whole lot else. Some werewords here and there, some cribbage here and there. All those normal things that we play a lot of that everybody who listens to this podcast has already heard
and tired of
a bunch about. So nothing else super exciting. I did buy Concordia Salsa though, and so hopefully I will be playing some.
Is that
more
the one
of
that adds? No, is that Venus that adds?
So we've had Venus for a while.
Oh, okay.
Megan's dad got that, I think, for like Christmas or something. And then we got Salsa because that's the wild resource. Mm-hmm. The only thing I don't have now for Concordia is a handful of the maps. So, but Megan and I really like Concordia. It's a good game too.
That's good. Works good for 2 players.
Yeah, works pretty good on some of the smaller maps. Yeah. So that's the games board ones that I have played. Board games I played. Jeff, what about you? What board games have you played?
I have played all the same ones Zach has played.
Well, why don't you guys then talk about board gaming?
Team Zaf playing the
Team
same.
Zaf.
Yes.
What can you say? We love campaign games.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all we played. We finished up Clank Legacy.
So it turns out that so in that game there are contracts that appear. Some of them will say if you haven't dealt with this by the end of like game 4 or game 5 or whatever, read it, and then it'll have a continuation, or it'll have a text saying finish it, and then you rep the contract, meaning it's done. Other times the contracts will just stay out there if you don't do them, they're just there next time. Don't accidentally rip one of those up. Probably 4 games earlier.
It was like
than
6 games ago.
We didn't even get to Underdark until like 5 or 6.
Yeah, and we were 11, 12. We took 12 games to finish the campaign.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we had the end goal of our final campaign, and we're like, we can't physically do this. Why? And then
we missed something, and the thing we missed was in the FAQ on their website. They're like, hey, if you don't have this, go look at this. And we couldn't look at it because it was gone, because it was torn up.
Yeah.
So we didn't know what to read to get the benefit to put it into the game. And so we played the final game without being able to actually win the final game. And thankfully there's a well, if you fail the final game, you just have to keep playing the final game over and over again. And we were like, well, what the fuck do we do? And I went to the bathroom, and I came out of the bathroom, and I was like, I bet Tabletop Simulator has all of the cards that we can read.
Which it did. And then
which let us know what thing we actually had to read for which card.
Yeah.
That let us finally, in the final game, put in... We basically just were like, well, let's just throw that contract into the final game, and whoever completes it gets the benefit, as well as we can actually complete the campaign. Because no one ever got... Because we looked back at that game we did, and no one ever got the grudging mark of approval.
Yeah.
For that game, which was related to that contract. So it was like, oh, that's where we fucked up.
Yep.
So they got that grudging mark of approval, and we were able to actually finish the final game.
Yep.
Almost everyone died.
On that last one, yeah.
Yep.
One person was able to make it above the line.
Yes. There was 3 zeros and 1 winner.
Yep. But then an overarching winner of the campaign as well. Employee of the month.
Yes.
Johann Zoinkberg.
Which was you.
Which was me.
Yep.
But still enjoyed it. And getting just Clank Legacy 2. I was like, does it have a part 2 in it name or anything like that? No, it doesn't. It's just a sequel. That comes out next year. And I've already bought it on, I already backed it on Kickstarter. So whenever that comes out, we'll be ready to play anew. So, but I would definitely suggest anyone who likes Clank at all, or even if you don't really like it, if you feel like you're just humming around not doing anything, because that's how Wes was not that big a fan of Clank, because he felt like there wasn't a lot of purpose to it.
Yeah.
The base one. But Legacy, there's a lot of stories and things to do that aren't just get an artifact and leave. So
more things to do and read. Zach, of course, won because he had the bullshit roll. That was really, really powerful for the whole game.
Look, I mean, it was very nice. I will say that.
Zach's roll was, if a monster is ever defeated while this card is in your hand by any other player, which means he has 3 turns for what this is in his hand for a monster to die, he gets to discard that card and draw 2 cards.
No. I discard that card and I draw 3 cards.
Oh, 3 cards. Sorry.
The card itself was like...
It's only a net +2 cards.
Well, here's the thing is that the roll, otherwise it was just a one skill and a movement, which everybody else's roll was. My roll only was useful on somebody else's turn, not on my own. So, V had one that she could buy things whenever, and not just out of town, and you could buy it for 1 gold cheaper. So, but the chances of mine being relevant were a lot more than other people's. I will not doubt that. So, but I was called an occultant, and I was like, as an accountant, I was just like, all right, well, I'm taking this. and then it turned out to be a very good card. I mean, your card, the last card you had that you swapped to, that was very good.
But I didn't get that until the special game.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, but it was also a very good card. That was better than mine, I would say.
It was fine, but it was 1 use only, where yours is every time you draw.
But the 1 use you would have on it could be very, very impactful.
Yes, or it could not be.
Look, if you guys didn't defeat monsters, the card didn't do anything. So
just like, all right, no one just defeat monsters ever.
Pacifist run.
Yeah.
And look, there were definitely a lot of times where it didn't happen. So
yes.
Anywho.
Nothing like having 7 cards in your hand every other hand.
Look, I also got a lot of card draw cards because that's good in those styles of games. So it just helped. It gave me a good synergy is all it was. It wasn't, there were a lot of other cards that I would get that would help. So,
I mean, and it was much easier for him to get those cards because he would have regularly 7 cards at a time.
Not every time.
Not every time. Not every time.
I would say 50% of the time I was able to use it.
That seems pretty regular.
And Jeff, you're forgetting all the times I just forgot to do it. So clearly, It's not as good as you thought.
What was Wes's?
His was he could if he ended his movement in a forest, he could get one more movement outside of a forest,
right.
which was very good as well.
Yes. But yes, Clank Legacy is done. It was good.
Yep.
It was funny. It was well written. And definitely just focus on reading things because they're almost universally super good. And the more you read, the more you're going to win.
There you go.
Yeah.
Clutch advice for Clank Legacy.
Yep. Read the things and you will dominate everyone else.
Yep.
And when you have 7 cards in a turn, it's a lot easier to read those things.
Who can say?
There's no way to know.
Possible to tell.
No idea. Because most times I didn't have 7 cards on my
Like 8 or 9 from all of the other cards.
Yeah. I was definitely way more than 7.
Yeah.
We did some Kingdom Death. We did some Midarra. Kingdom Death, we did one more round. Even though the Gambler's Chest was in hand, we didn't want to abandon our one of our rare actually probably going to finish the actual campaigns, which might be the first time we've ever gotten to the end. Like
the closest we've ever gotten was when we beat the Watcher.
We beat the Watcher, but we didn't make it to the Gold Smoke Night.
Because that one we beat him early, and we beat him at like year
25.
No, it was like 22 or 23.
Oh, that's right, because it gets stronger the longer you wait.
Yeah. But then the Gold Smoke Night doesn't appear till like 30 or something. And so it's just 7 years of fighting tier 3 monsters.
Because you can't, that's all you can fight.
And it was just like, we were just like, well, if we keep doing this, we're just going to keep losing our good characters. And then and that's what
it's going to be over.
Like we had 1 or 2 years where we just had to fight level 3 things that we got smoked on from other things. And it was just like, well, shit. We're not really going to get smoked on these characters.
No.
So we're just going to try and finish out this one real quick. But like, I don't think we're going to play it fully. Like,
I think we're going to skip the hunts because the way the campaign is going to end is we just need materials and we don't need anything else to just go to the end, but we still have to like do the motions.
But we can. In this, we could just fight level 1s if we wanted to.
Yeah, there's no like, you must fight level 3s from here on out. Or anything.
Yeah.
I see.
So we're just like, okay. And in which case, we would just destroy the shit out of them. And so we're just going to go through each one of the tomb levels until we get to the final thing.
Yep.
So, and then Gambler's Chest.
And then we will start Gambler's Chest, which is basically Kingdom Death 2.
Yep.
Perfect.
Like it is almost as much content of Kingdom Death as the base game of Kingdom Death.
Sounds great.
Yep. We played Midarra. We did a bounty. We found out that the bounties are misprinted because
Fun.
So there's 2 skulls, and when you look up what difficulty 2 skull is uncommon, loot, or higher. And then you do the 2 skull, and it's like, everything in here is common. So we should have done this bounty
in chapter 2.
In chapter 2 instead of chapter 3, where we're ultra powerful, because this loot would have actually been relevant had we done it previously, because the loot level, even though we're in chapter 3 and uncommon, goes back to common when we do this bounty.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, because I mean, it would be like, because it's all based on loot levels of mundane, common, uncommon, rare, and in the main story at this point we're uncommon, but this bounty has common. It like on the words it says common on it, and so you got to go based off of that loot level in there, and so which we found out on the second one, I think, that we were just like, oh well, do we need?
It's like 3 or 4 scenarios, just like back to back to back.
Yeah. But we like really smoked the first one, and I was like, okay. And then we went to the second one, and I looked on there, and I saw it all mentioned common stuff, and I was like,
So there's a misprint. Its difficulty is the skull difficulty that the main rulebook says the bounties are is off.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that just because it doesn't. Act 2 is when you can do level 2 bounties. It's just somewhere we read something that said, and it may have been me, that it was like, oh, you shouldn't do that until you're uncommon. But also, this game is not that hard. And like there is an ending if you like, what is it? You had like the training thing in the beginning, And if you
Yes.
fail that too hard, you can like there's just a premature ending in the game of like you can't even participate in the
If you
plot.
don't get out of the tutorial, it makes you start the tutorial over again.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the fact that that is at all possible is crazy because it's
Not hard.
we
We have adjusted the difficulty.
we have
slightly.
adjusted it slightly.
To make it harder.
Yeah.
Harder, yes.
But not as hard as it could. There are things that we could do that could make it a lot harder, but we didn't want to do that.
Basically, increase all hit points from all enemies by 50%.
Damn.
And we didn't want to do that.
That's fair. I
What we
understand.
the two that we did was if you had a critical miss when you attack something, they get a free counter on you.
Okay.
And then most game end conditions are like one person gets to this thing. Now it's all of us have to go get to that thing.
Okay.
So
Yeah, before it was like, oh, there's a bunch of enemies left. We'll just go to the exit. We're done.
Yeah.
I defeated the end boss of the bounty had 2 phases. I killed the first phase in 1 round of actions. And then we killed the second phase in
one round of
Yes.
everybody, we killed it. But the first phase,
one. I killed it by myself with no other help.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I've sort of built my character to have a lot of free attacks, so
That seems good.
it is good.
Somewhat similarly to his Baldur Gates character.
Well, it's just a fighter. I get free attacks.
Yeah, exactly. And that other guy's a fighter.
Fighters are really good.
Yeah, it's fine. But does he jump as far?
No.
I do move probably the most of all of us, though.
Yeah. Well, maybe not now. We'll see.
10?
12 for me.
We're talking Midarra. How many spaces I move in Midarra?
Oh,
I can move 10 spaces in Midarra.
I moved 12
Oh, okay.
meters in BG3.
I don't know
Without
what
jumping.
I don't want my meter.
No.
My jump is way further than my walking, so I
Mhm.
just jump wherever I'm going.
Well, I just got something that would, that will make my movement a lot easier.
Neat.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then after Kingdom Death, one day when we were getting into the end game, we were like, well, let's just play this other game. Because Zach purchased Freelancers, which is the sequel to Forgotten Waters,
From Glad Hat Games.
Yes.
which was one of the big releases at Gencon.
Which one of you actually owns Forgotten Waters?
Zach.
Are they legacy and that they are hard to
No.
reset?
No.
No.
It's
Each
just a
one of
campaign
they're-
game.
They're each scenarios, but it's
Yeah.
not.
There is no.
We played new characters each time, like in each scenario. So it's not like,
Yeah, it's really just the character sheets. That's the only thing that goes away, but there's enough to play.
A lot.
There's enough to play 5 players with every sheet for 4 of the 5 scenarios, and then you have to buy new sheets.
yeah. Or just,
Do they sell sheets?
Yes.
separate?
yeah,
Okay.
it was pretty cheap from what I remember.
I might want to borrow it at some point.
Yeah. That's
Well,
fine.
there's no way to remember because I'm the one that bought them for you.
They were free, actually.
Yes.
Great. Oh, perfect. Anyway, for the sequel,
Yes. So Freelancers is a D&D-esque fantasy setting
Sure.
that is also post-apocalypse, like No More Humans, and it's
Oh.
all monster races.
Yep.
okay.
We did the first scenario. There was only 2 available at the time. There is now 3. They're like timed releases. All of the scenarios are just on the website. The first scenario was very much the tutorial, which in Forgotten Waters was also the worst one because it was sort of setting up the world and how you got into like fantasy pirate instead of just like actual like real world pirate. This one was setting up your group of freelancers, where you had to go on a mission for a dwarf wizard,
Okay.
magician.
Yeah.
He doesn't really define himself very well.
Yeah.
Keep it vague. I like it.
All you know, he's very powerful.
Yeah.
And you got to go kill a dragon. And it sort of starts you off in the city, and you just kind of do scenarios and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
I would say the difference so far is that one in Forgotten Waters, you have like a tile that a tile set that you set up that is your map that you're moving across. In Freelancers, it's a sheet that is basically like choose your own path.
It's a map.
That it's a map, but
Okay.
it's on Freelancers you could still go whichever way you wanted to basically and check out whatever stuff. This one is
In Forgotten Waters, you can go wherever you want.
yeah. Ooh, excuse me.
Because there's such a huge pool of tiles, and you just put the tiles down, and you're like, well, do you want to go to the foggy spot, this one, or do you want to go to the open ocean? And then you just kind of do a scenario.
Yeah. Whereas this one is you follow these paths. You'll have to make choices, and you can double back on stuff, but there is a time-based element to this. Every time you move takes one time, and then there's a draw bag that you pull from, and then eventually it adds tokens that increases the time, and eventually at one point it will be over. So that's
okay.
Yeah.
Your threat, basically.
And it was near the end, like when we finished, it was near the end of the threat. Like,
we almost lost by time before we finished the scenario.
And there was no real chance for us to explore much.
Yeah, we weren't dawdling, and the time was ticking very fast.
Yeah.
Mostly probably because the Thursby was just drawing all the threat instead of
Thursby
literally anything else.
Well, also I realized is that we didn't focus on companions near as much as we should, because those tokens went into the tie bag that helped with time.
Yeah, that's really cool. You get weapons, you have 2 treasure items, and then you get like 2 companions. And then when you get companions, those tokens go into the bag, and you can draw those, and then you get a special like thing,
a story moment thing.
Yes, whenever you draw them, and they all have their own like unique stuff. Mine was some sort of gnome tinkerer or something like that, and he was like, "Hey, I found a bunch of junk. What do you want?" And I was like, "This," and he's like, "You sure?" And I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Good, because I can take this other really good one." And I could have like, if I said no, it's like choose door 1, 2, or 3, and you're like, door 3. Are you sure? Cool. Yes, I'm gonna stick with door 3. And he's like, good, because I get door 2. Hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was very funny.
As Forgotten Waters was.
Yes.
What's his name? Is Chris Sabat?
Sabat, I think.
Piccolo,
Vegeta, from all of the newer Dragon Ball voice actor stuff.
He's still in there, so
very famous.
Sure.
Yeah. He's still doing everything. He doesn't sound quite as much like Piccolo this time, though, so that's a bummer. I
always thought Piccolo was more of a pirate than a
yeah.
D&D.
He's got the turban, hat, pointy shoulder pads.
Exactly. the pirates are known for
wearing a lot of white and purple.
Yep.
The colors of royalty.
Mm-hmm.
Green skin,
like pirates.
Antennae, full regeneration powers.
Came from an egg, pirates.
It definitely has a like soft like yes or no question of like, how dirty do you want this game to be? Where it's like, are you okay with cursing or not? It definitely throws you like, hey, what do you like? So you go to this like fortune teller, and like at the fortune teller, it's like, hey, are you like thumbs up, thumb down on cursing? And then it was like full rain. It's like, we don't have to bleep anything. And it was like, oh, they say the word fuck. That's cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And they definitely went to some places that was like, oh, okay, now I understand why they asked for this, because I was not expecting them to say that.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, it can definitely be a little more adult, which is fun. The whole character sheet is really cool. Like you're getting experience, but you're also getting titles. Like the whole game is about getting titles. You can have like 8 different titles. They can be lawful. They can be chaotic. Multiple points in the game, and you're like counting up your party's like lawful titles versus chaotic titles. I think I got the most titles.
You did.
And I got to write my name in the back of the book.
It did feel like it had a little bit of a the titled keep on titling of like Jeff kept getting good stuff, and then then it was like, well, if we want to win, if we want to beat this one, Jeff should be the one that does it, sort of thing. That would get him more titles and more shit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The character sheets are interesting because it is race and class, and you put those together to make an imp. What was I, warrior? No. Bard. Imp bard. And then there's a lot of those scenarios where it's like, okay, now you role play. Would you like to tell everyone the story of your adventures so far? Yes or no? And if you say yes, you have to like role play and come up with a bunch of the information that's said, and then everyone votes up or down if your story was good or not. Or you could just say no, and then it's like, okay, just get some sort of positive or negative benefit if you don't feel like putting forth the energy to role play.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was fun, but I definitely, as of right now, unsurprisingly, still like Forgotten Waters more because it had a lot more stuff in it. So I want to see the actual scenarios to see if it brings it back to that or not.
Yeah, there was only one combat scenario, and it was the end boss.
Yeah.
That was definitely Paul's complaint. He was like, I really liked the combat, and there was like no combat in this except to the very, very end.
Yep.
Which is, I think, exactly how it was in the tutorial before.
Yeah. But it's been so long, so it's hard to remember. So
yeah. Yeah, it's Freelancers is good.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
It comes with 2 sets of D20, like 2 sets of the 7 D&D dice, basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
which was cool. It
yeah.
was like, oh, here's just 2 sets of D&D dice.
So also,
Nice.
I'm also going to be like, oh, well, I've got like 5 or 6 more at home that I will be adding into that when we play
Yeah.
the next time, so everybody gets their own dice.
Sure.
So
Perfect.
Oh yeah, like why they have the D&D dice. Before it was like if you go up in the skill, you just get that as a modifier. Where this, like level 1 is a D4, level 2 is a D6, level 3 is a D8.
Okay.
So your die roll on top of your D2, so you get D20 plus D4,
Okay.
D20 plus D10. So the more you're up in that skill, the more your numbers can go up.
unless you have a single corruption, in which case you can't roll the die at all, and so then you're probably
Yes.
going to fail.
Yes.
Which happened to us a decent amount. That was one reason why Jeff kept getting stuff, is because most of us were like corrupted, and it was like, well, Jeff,
Basically just a disadvantage.
yeah, Jeff can roll with the
Yeah.
other dice, so let's let him roll.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense.
There are dungeons in there too, which was interesting. We saw
Yeah.
one, but also I think we played it wrong. Specifically, Paul played it wrong.
That tracks.
I think you have to choose different people for each one, but he just
Yeah.
shows himself multiple times.
And then the dungeon is like, it's more just like a scenario with multiple choices than it is like,
I see.
yeah.
and then he just kept choosing himself. And I don't think you can.
I don't know.
Because it's always like, well, you probably get something good from this, so I'm just going to keep choosing myself to be able to do this over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and then it was especially because he didn't have corruption. So it was like, well, I have a better chance of doing this versus some other people. And then at the end, it was like, well, everybody who was in part of this and the project manager, I think it was what they called
Yeah.
it, gets a one thing, but he was the only one on it. So he only got one instead of like 4 people getting something.
Yeah.
So,
What a dick.
well, yeah. But we know that for the future. So
Sure.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I like it a lot. Less Mad Libs than the previous one. Still some, but less having to read them, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. But
and because like one is on doing the Mad Libs is on the one sheet, and then like reading it is on the other, that they're even more vague in certain respects that they don't line up as well.
Gotcha.
So
so far, so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that wraps up what we've been playing, yeah?
Sure does.
All right. On to Banter, a.k.a. Baldur's Gate 3 Tur.
yes.
Banter.
Okay. You said you're in 2 games.
I am playing 2 playthroughs.
One with you and Megan.
One with me and Megan, one by myself.
Okay.
And the one by myself is my second one by myself because I started over because I was unhappy with some things.
Gotcha.
Namely that, so when you're choosing your character, if you click through all of the origin characters, like it autofills their name in down below. And then if you decide, I don't want to play one of those origin characters, I want to do a custom one. And you do a custom one, you go all the way through it. You get to the end, that name from the origin character is still filled in. And if you're not paying attention, you don't realize that. And you just see the name and you don't realize it was from the origin character. You're like, oh, that's a pretty sweet name. That sounds cool. And then you jump into the game with that
Which name was it?
Lazel.
Lazelle.
Lazel.
You wanted
So-
to be Tav, right? That's
Yeah.
You're like, I need to be Tav.
Got to be Tav.
Got a Tav.
Is that the default
That's
character?
the
That is
default
the default
character.
character
Alright.
name, yeah. Which is a fucking stupid name.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
I also have my own one, and I also have Jeff Thursby and I have one that we started.
Yes.
So I'm curious because I already feel this a little bit. So like in my game that I play by myself, I got 3 NPCs with me all the time. So there's a lot of time for like opportunity for them to approve and disapprove of the things I'm doing, or for them to like kind of side interact with like conversations. In the 3-player game, especially where you would only have one sidekick with you, how do you guys feel about that level of like
Shadowheart's basically being Shadowheart?
We have definitely been like, this is a multiplayer game that we are playing. We don't give a fuck about the companions or the companion quests.
Pretty much, except for Shadowheart,
who has been in our party the entire time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's been only once that we have swapped out that party member to be able to do a quest.
Yeah.
That I really wanted to be done because it had a very good benefit for fighters. And then we tossed the half-elf person,
Asterion,
back into the camp and got Shadowheart right back in.
So far, my only interaction with him is him sucking my blood, and then
willingly or not,
and then him being like, "Ooh, you're gross." So that's basically my. And then everyone else has just been like, "Hi,
hello,
hello," and you're like, "Okay, well."
It's like, why are these two wanting to kill each other? I don't know. Who cares? And then it bugged out, and then it was like, oh, they just don't care anymore. Okay, cool, whatever.
We watched one of them kill the other, and then the other one was
to the other one's throat, and it was just like, all right, time to go into combat. No, they're just standing at their little tents. Cool. And moving along.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've chatted with him from time to time, but nothing that was ever like.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have Shadowheart, and we do kind of her thing, and then play the game. And we don't care if she approves or disapproves, really.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what do we care? You can just bring someone else.
Yeah, you can go away. That's fine.
We can respec anyone into a cleric, just so you know.
Yes, yeah.
In our last game, I did respec the entirety of Shadowheart because apparently her base cleric stats are a dog shit. And
they're not great. She is a lot better now.
For being a cleric, or at least what kind of cleric we want her to be, which is a heal bot.
Yeah.
And so I respect her into, she's trickery domain, and respect her into the life domain, which gives her a ton of free healing spells.
Oh shit, I need to go respec her.
Yeah. Also because her stats are all over the place. It's like 12 strength, 13 dexterity, 14 constitution, 17 wisdom. And it's like, all right, we're going to dump fucking intelligence. We're going to dump dexterity, up constitution, up wisdom.
She's my most dexterous person in my party. So I need to bump her dex so she can be a better lockpick.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you just need to bring better lockpickers.
Well, because then that would mean I'd have to bring Asterion, and I fucking hate that guy. I really regret not staking him through the heart when he tried to suck my blood.
Okay, so what do you consider, like, so your multiplayer game?
Yes.
What are you, and what is Megan?
Megan is I think the Shadow Ranger. The
Ranger.
There's a Ranger subclass. It's like a shadowy one that like they're very assassin ranged type.
Nice.
So she in that one is our.
So she's a
lockpick, disarm trap.
So she's a Bethesda Skyrim character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, you gotta have one. You gotta have one.
Yeah.
You crouch and shoot your bow and arrow a lot.
And then I am a tiefling barbarian in that one.
Okay.
Pretty sure I'm tiefling.
There's already one of those.
There is. I didn't know that when we started that. And now it works because turns out having two tiefling barbarians fucking wrecks face.
Nice. Yeah.
Like the two of us just literally leap into battle as Megan sits in the back and takes pot shots.
Yep.
And then I think we still have Shadowheart being a heal bot. So
yeah, well, there you go. Jeff, you are
fighter.
Human
fighter.
Basic aspects over here.
Extra feats.
Yep. Basic ass bitch.
Yep. That's also like +1 to all stats. Like, yeah.
Human's really good. Yeah.
Are you just 10 into fighter at this point?
Yes, I am full fighter.
All right. Thursby is monk,
half elf,
monk, and a little bit of rogue.
Okay.
Oh yes, he did go rogue.
And I am a tiefling, sorcerer, warlock.
Okay.
Wild magic sorcerer still.
Wild magic. And pack of the old one. No, I'm the other one. I don't remember what it is though. Great old one or something like that. I don't really use it.
Warlock.
I got it for Eldritch Blast, and and also the reusable spell slots for my sorcerer meta magic points, sorcery points, and then also a lot of other powers that I have now.
Cool.
It's brain surgery, we'll say.
See.
I mean, I guess the broad stroke of
Interesting.
the broad stroke of the broad stroke of Baldur's Gate is Illithids are involved. So
yes.
it's literally the first thing that happens in the very first cutscene.
Yes. It just gives you the choice of like, do you want to be like,
Do you want to
yay or nay?
invest in your new Illithid type stuff, or
Yeah.
do you not want to? And most of us do not, but Zach does.
yeah. Other
And-
people not investing in it means that I can invest in it more.
Correct. Yes. And some people that don't want to invest were forced to invest.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
And multiple times.
Shadowheart?
No. There's tests that you have to do to be like yay or
Oh.
nay. And someone was failing them over and over.
Yeah.
And it was not an easy test.
No.
Yeah, we are in we just started Act 3, so we're completely done with Act 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Act 1 was really, really good. Act 2 was good, and I'm waiting to see what Act 3 is like.
Gotcha.
Yep.
My fighter is sword and board, so I'm kind of tanky. Heavy armor. I have like protection for my fighter, which is if anyone attacks a party member with 1.5 meters, I can put that attack at disadvantage. But I have to be within 1.5 meters of the attacker and the party member, I think, instead of just the party member. So
Right.
it's very positional related. If someone runs just on the other side of the party member, I can't use it. I'm also Sentinel, which is basically guard from Blood Bowl, where if anyone attacks anyone adjacent to me, I can get a free attack against that person. Also, if I can take an opportunity attack against them. Also, if I ever do an opportunity attack and hit, that person's movement away from me is then stopped.
Okay.
So they can't run away from me.
Yeah.
I also have Athletic, which increases my jump distance significantly. I can jump something unreasonably far.
Mhm.
It's like 25 meters. And I'm like jumping up to like second story shit and
Yeah.
just being like, cool, bonus action, pop, 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 pop.
Yeah. But I have Misty Step that I can use to just teleport around and stuff.
You
And-
Nightcrawler.
Yeah. But Jeff can just jump to those spots.
I can
It's-
usually jump further than those
Yeah.
spots. The downside is I can jump up really easily, but I can't jump down very easily. I
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
take all that fall damage.
You
What
gotta,
you- what
you
you
gotta
need
find
is-
the Featherfall boots down in the Underdark. Because
Yeah.
then you can just cast Featherfall on yourself, and then you can jump
Yeah,
down.
but it's like a
anywhere.
bonus action. And you
Yeah.
know what I'd rather cast as a bonus action?
Attack.
Triple my jump.
Is that from your boots?
No,
No.
there's a necklace or a ring we found that gives you the like triple jump.
Yeah. So
Also, I've found boots that give you dash and jump as a
Yeah.
single action.
So you just occasionally got to throw on your feather boots to jump way the fuck down a hole.
Well, what he needs is the abilities like Barbarian, that one Barbarian has
To
that can-
jump on
to
people.
jump onto somebody from,
Yeah.
because then that would work out really well for you.
I have not seen that ability.
But I basically move around. So my Eldritch Blasts have extra
Pushback.
they basically have pushback. Also a lot of extra damage on them. But I will just be like, oh, if someone's near the edge, all right, I push them off. If not, I'm gonna get around them and I'm gonna push them towards Jeff and Thursby.
Correct.
So
You gotta be careful pushing people off edges. I've learned, because you can push like a boss off an edge and then not loot their body,
Correct.
and miss out on good loot.
But
Yeah.
if you use your superiority die to disarm them, they drop it first, and then you push them off a cliff.
Yep.
Only if it's what they're actually carrying.
Correct.
Yeah.
And which I did to the final boss of Act 2 before, and I just picked it up, and then he just was unarmed attacking everyone. He had a shield and like a hand. That's
Yeah.
all he was doing.
I did that to the demon guy on the like starting level
Yeah,
thing.
yes,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I was like, command, drop weapon. And he was
Yep.
like, I was like, yoink. Thanks.
you.
thank you very much. Bye.
Fight that illithid with your fists.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, I am enjoying the superiority die because I can do a push attack with melee. I can do a push attack with range.
Oh, that's
I can
pretty
do
handy.
a trip attack, melee or range. I can do menacing, which frightens them or they can't move. And now I have recently taken sweeping, so I'll have like a AoE.
What level are y'all?
10. We just
Jesus,
10.
fuck.
Like I said, yeah.
Starting Act 3.
Yeah. I can so with the meta magic that I can do, I can make 2 people haste with 1 action.
Yeah.
And then assuming I don't immediately forget about that and then cast another concentration somewhere else, which has only happened several times. Only whenever I cast it on Jeff. So that Jeff then has to miss
and he
his
does
next
it first thing, and then he immediately breaks. And I was like, cool, I just skipped my turn again this round. Cool.
But when that doesn't happen, then I haste myself and him, and then I give some extra attacks, and then I can do quicken spell to give to cast a spell as a bonus action, and then the next turn I can just be like, all right, lightning bolt, fireball, so I can I have the Eldritch for the sustained damage, and then I can do a bunch of big bursts to enemies,
and then you're done.
And well, the Eldritch is good sustained damage, especially next level. I'll be able to throw 3 of them.
Nice,
and
nice.
There's a staff in Act 3 that I want that will work very well with Sorcerer and Warlock. So
yeah, I don't know what my upgrade
I also found
possibly could be.
Also found out that if I get a 3rd feat, then I could just take dual weapon master, and then I can just have 2 staffs. So I can have both because one of them has fireballs and shit on it, and then the other one will have lightning shit. So
I might have to make Gale take that then. I didn't know you could do dual staffs.
Yeah, you can have dual staffs.
I've got 2 staffs that I really want Gale to double up.
Dual weapon proficiency.
Yeah. The problem with multi-classing is that unless you do it in levels of 4, you miss out on feats.
Yeah.
So, and my charisma is now up to 20 because of those feats. So I would have to add something else. So I'd have to go 4 into Warlock, and it means I get not as much access to high-level sorcerer spells. So it's
I don't really know what Thursby does. He just kind of hits things a lot.
He's a monk, so he hits people about 100 times.
He's all unarmed.
Yep.
It seems like he does necrotic damage with every hit now.
Yeah. We finally fought other monks, and we're like, oh, shit.
They're fucking shit up. Why can't you be this cool?
Right now, I think that, I don't know. BG3 is amazing. I could talk about it for a very long time.
How much have you accidentally fucked up shit in that game? Just curious. What is your save scumming policy?
I don't save scum.
Okay.
Typically.
There
has been, I think, 2 situations where I have been like, oh, no, that is not the story we're trying to tell here.
Gotcha.
And usually it's because a conversation choice implied it was one thing, and then it was a very different thing.
We have had that happen where we're in a town, everyone's just going out selling, buying loot. Jeff decides to start a conversation, and then it's just oh, we're actually going to start a big ass fucking battle now, and we're all in the middle somewhere.
It just comes out of nowhere too. It's just surprise! Oh shit! It's this huge story event that's just by talking to this one person.
That we then failed, and it caused some very real repercussions,
extreme repercussions.
We were just we're just gonna, and then we did it.
We're just gonna
quote unquote right, and we're like, yeah, that was a lot easier.
That was I like this ending significantly better.
Most of my fuck ups have not had to.
You've
restart.
Only killed us all once.
All of us?
Yes.
Which one was that?
That was the Underdark Arcane Tower.
Okay, yes.
Yep.
Wait, what did you do in the Arcane Tower?
So there's
is it part of the tower? I've done the tower.
It's at the top of the tower, and he made a lot of conversation choices.
I made all the conversation choices is what I made.
And then we all died. After we succeeded the conversation choice. He was like, what do these other ones do? Oh, we're all dead.
I like talking to him, and then he was just like, this other one was just like, oh, now we're just going to randomly start attacking. And and then
we all died.
Yeah. So I'll own up to that one, but that was also just didn't know that was going to happen, so to speak.
And then you killed us all once.
Killed you guys, not me.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
This was in the witchy area, I think. You fireballed all of us and killed us. No, it was in Act 2 with the shadowy things, and all the shadowy things explode, and he killed a shadowy thing that made them all explode around us, and we all died except him.
Look, it's
just your story.
Exactly. They were stupid enough to be next to enemies.
Do you guys not have just a mountain of revivify spells?
Only Shadowheart has one, but
I've got a fuckload of the scrolls.
We have used a lot of those
We've
scrolls.
used a decent amount of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only started using them in the Underdark because Gale has a bad habit of getting blasted by enemies and being yeeted off into an abyss.
We haven't had too much of a problem with
I
that.
did get yeeted off once. So
Yes.
but then
We have mostly been doing the eating.
yes.
It's so satisfying.
It is.
It's also very satisfying if you're playing as a barbarian or if you're like a near max strength fighter, like you may be, Jess. If you grab,
some would say I'm above max strength.
If you grab a relatively small and enemy individual,
I don't know. Yeah, like anyone my size, I cannot throw them very far. I don't know why.
You gotta.
Yeah, it definitely has to be like a
smaller thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a halfling.
Yeah.
Or
so I've tried to throw him, and
I
have to. He either has to enlarge me or reduce himself.
Yeah,
and then I can throw him pretty far.
Yeah, dwarf tossing is a great sport.
Yeah.
I can jump so far that we've tried to like scam our way through certain areas, but they are smart enough to be like, path is blocked. You can't jump this way. Yep. You have to go around the way that you are supposed to go.
Yeah, apparently the latest patch fixed an area where you could use like fly or really powerful jump to go like 4 levels up a tower and just bypass all of it.
So I'm the quote unquote face of the group.
Sure.
Because I'm a charlatan, and so
because you get plus 12 to all persuasion,
intimidation, and deception, and so
90% of the time I'm like, Zach, you go. You just go talk.
Yeah. And
because I have like +3 to intimidation, but it doesn't matter because my fucking charisma is -1.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. It's like, well, I'm gonna have an 8 charisma skill. I don't need fucking higher than that. But I want to intimidate, goddammit.
You want to intimidate, yeah. Instead, I'll just fake someone into a drinking contest that causes them to kill themselves.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
All those bosses you can kind of check your way into defeating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like, it seems like everything in this game, there are several different ways to approach it.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool.
Yes, like the whole game is just like, do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yeah.
You think you can do it? Yes. I think the coolest thing that we have found was a puzzle that you had to turn statues, and I failed the athletics check to turn it, and Thursby was just like, well, what if we grease it up? And I had a grease bottle, I threw it at the statue, and boom, just turned.
Yeah, it just turned like normal.
Yep.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Grease it up. It was just stuck.
I had a similar moment like in the early romance stages with Karlak. We were like, hey, I've got an idea. I'm like, I got a carafe of water here. Just
Yep.
Sort of works.
Sorta.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Great game.
Baldur's Gate 3 is
I am having
pretty good.
A harder time with my game of it just because I'm like, oh, there's so much more. I have to do everything now. I can't just like, I'm like, oh, I have to control 4 players worth of shit instead of 1.
Can I not just automate these players?
Yeah, exactly.
The worst thing for me and my own versus Megan's, like, so I was playing with Megan for a while. Like, I played my first game for a while, and then Megan got home from vacation and like tried it, liked it, so we started playing together. So I scrapped that one. I never went back to it. But then we played for a while, and I would be frustrated because like I'd feel like she played for a bit in her own solo game while I was working and got further ahead, so she knew where things were. And so I feel like we'd go into an area and I'd be like reading the book that was on the table, and she'd run around and loot every fucking container in the room. I'd be like, damn it, you're getting all the good loot. This is bullshit. And she's good about sharing. Like, it's not actually a
just
problem.
still have
but
her
like,
inventory. It's not like it's locked.
I like to loot.
Uh-huh.
You know. But then when I started my new solo separate from our 2-player one again, it was like, oh god, it's actually really exhausting doing all of the looting with one person.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that like for the first half of the game, I was the lockpicker, but fucking every time I was lockpicking, Thursby would be right next to the chest, and as soon as I'd unlock it, he's like, and open, and I'm like, what the fuck?
I don't trust you roguey bitch.
Yeah. But then also there are also times where I will just, when there's like after a big boss and they're like talking to somebody or something, I'm like, and boop boop, and I'm gonna take this and this, and ooh, look what I found.
I have the luxury of no matter what they loot, they probably can't use it if it's for me, so I just get it anyways.
That's fair. Can wear light armor, but the good sorcerer and warlock stuff isn't.
And I don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
And if it's heavy armor or a weapon, it comes to me because Thursby's all unarmed monk. So he's not going to take weapons.
Yeah.
All the weapons go to me. Maybe shields go to Shadowheart.
Yeah. That is one nice thing that we all are in our own little unique corners of like.
And it's just like helms, necklaces, rings, boots, gauntlets that could be useful, but they're always kind of like weird.
I'll tell you something that's really funny is what you should do is if you're a monk, you should get the frost. There's a staff that can like make a circle of frost around the ground of the enemies you're fighting, and then also have the boots that make you immune to frost. But then fight those next to fucking fighter guy over here who just kept falling on his goddamn ass. And you need a dexterity
save every time you walk on ice, and then you get no bonus to dexterity because you're wearing heavy armor and fall over more than half the time anytime you want to move on that ice to get next to that thing that it's attacking, because it's a large radius. You can't attack from outside.
We fought something near like over halfway through Act 2 that was like a tough fight that took us like 3 or 4 times to actually beat. And one of the times we fought it, he had ice everywhere on there, and I had a scroll of ice storm, so I had cast that and hit him, but there was just ice covering the entire area. Jeff was like, "You fucking assholes."
Zach doesn't need to move.
I don't need to move.
Shadowheart doesn't need to move.
Thursby's
immune to it. Yeah. So anytime I want to do anything, I have to make a dex saving throw to not fall over.
There was one time I did have to jump on an icy surface, and I'm like...
You jumped to it or from it?
I jumped to it, and I was like because that was the only way for me to hit anything, and I was just like, I'm going to slip if I do this. I jumped and
onto ice.
And I was like, yep, that's it.
And down.
That's it. That's my turn.
That's it.
Fantastic.
So Thursby stopped doing the ice thing.
That's probably for the best.
He had a lightning thing going on for a little while.
I have a lightning thing going on my wizard.
And every time he walked through puddles, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm in this puddle. I didn't even know this puddle was here, and now it's electrified.
There's definitely some very funny interactions of stuff.
Yes. So. I've only carried a barrel once, but that was very useful for that hard fight.
There's been a couple times I've carried a barrel around on like my 2 strong characters.
There was that one fight we were like, I had a pouch of like 12 alchemist fires, and I'm like, I'm just gonna put this right next to him because like we were sneaking right behind them, and then we could sort of shove it next to them, and then it was like, all right, and 1 fireball, and then everything went up. And
that was the only time we finally won that because we did that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fucking displacer beasts kept spawning more of themselves.
It's kind of their thing.
Yeah, and it kept being assholes.
Yeah.
Fucking horned horrors do that too. They do a little rattling call to bring more of them in. It's like, oh God, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, I don't remember, it was those things in darkness. They were underground, and they got advantage anytime they were in darkness. They looked like little sort of like mantis crab people or something. I don't remember what they were called. It's the only time I've seen them.
I don't know. Anyway,
that was our probably second hardest fight.
We do still have a lot of Gen Con stuff to talk about, and it's already been an hour. So let's move on from BG3, even though I don't want to. I, in fact, just want to go play it while they talk about Gen Con stuff since I wasn't there. I'm going to go get another beer, though, while you guys start talking about Gen Con, because you were there like 2-3 weeks ago. Also,
note from the chat, Mike Jones wants to hear me talk about the Dutch Formula 1 race that was this last Sunday.
Well, you can also do that, too.
Yeah. It was a very, very good race. I highly loved it. It was the first race back from break. But Mike Jones wants to hear me talk about F1 pretending to go green. They didn't allow cars to go to the track. You could only take green transit to get to the track. So like buses, trains, bikes.
Okay.
So it was like, I don't know, a show of like, hey, we're going to be green because you can't drive to the race. But it's also like the Netherlands, and they bike a lot anyways, and probably have a pretty good transit system. Yeah. So,
hence why they would do it there versus like,
if
they were like, we'll do it in Los Angeles. No, that's not
Las Vegas. Yeah. You can't drive. You can only bike. But the race was very, very, very good. It was like, it was dry for like most of the first lap, and then it started raining. So everyone went into the pits to get wet tires. then it rained for a while, and then it got dry for a while, and then it rained again later in the race, and that was cool. And yeah, it was a good ass race. Gen Con, it happened again.
It did.
It was full strength.
More than full strength.
Yes, it was the most attended Gen Con ever by a little bit.
It was
They say 2019 was a little under 70,000, and they say this is a little over 70,000. Yeah, Gen Con 2023 had over 70,000 unique attendees, which breaks the previous record of almost 70,000 attendees in 2019. Of course, we went in 2021. That was about 35,000. That was definitely like mandatory mask, mandatory vaccination. 2022, that was mandatory.
It was still that
mask.
Yeah.
The vaccination system was way better in 2022.
And that was like more like 50?
Yes, over 50,000 attendees.
Okay.
But this one was bigger than 2022 and 2019, which was the last full strength Gen Con. So we did the huge. We flew in Wednesday,
but not using that we flew.
So normally we arrive Wednesday, but the way we arrive is usually very different. Normally I fly into Chicago a day early, spend a day with the family, borrow a car, and then drive down. And then you guys, Wes was also there at Gen Con with us, would fly into Chicago, and then we would drive down to Indianapolis.
Stopping for food or getting food in Chicago first and then driving down.
Yep. And then we'd have a car at the convention to go wherever we needed. And because our hotel was a little further, I wouldn't have
luxurious Super 8.
Yes. That was getting more and more luxurious every year.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have car access this year, and we flew straight into Indianapolis this year.
Wes didn't go with us last year. One of the reasons was because he didn't want to go to the Super 8
Which
again.
he never said until we got like not that hotel, and he was like, "Oh, I'll go now." And I was like, "Well, you just have to say it. Well, you would have just not gone there." It's like, "Oh no, it's our favorite hotel."
Yeah, no. We're adults. We make more money than we did back when we needed to go to that.
yes, absolutely.
So I was able to get into the hotel lottery, and I got a hotel, the Marriott
Courtyard.
Yes.
Yep. Which is
connected.
which is the furthest connected hotel.
It felt like it was the furthest connected.
It was about a half-mile walk
to the convention, to the end of the convention,
convention center from the hotel. But the hotel was fine.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was all air conditioned the whole walk.
Mm-hmm.
So we flew into Indianapolis. It was the first time I'd ever flown into Indianapolis, or flew out. It was fine.
Yeah.
We did. I got in super early. I actually had the same flight as one of my coworkers that was going out with his dad. And he was like, "I'm going out on the first flight out of Denver." And I was like, "Mine's at like 5:40. Like, do you have earlier than that?" And he was like, "I'm flying Southwest. Where are you flying? Southwest?" And I was like, "We're on the same fucking flight." So we flew out together.
Is this the same coworker that later on you didn't feel super great?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
He got sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jeff got sick.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Might have been unrelated.
Could have been.
Or Jeff was around a lot of other people who probably got sick.
Wes and I didn't get sick, so you know.
Yeah, that's true. Wes and Zach did not get sick. Anyways, flew out, and it was fun flying on a plane with, people
Yes, it
randomly than just like random stranger, because that flight was fucking full for 5:40 in the morning.
One of the flights I went to with Wes, we flew in the same one, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Not this one though. He flew in later, and then I flew in the afternoon. No, he was there earlier that week because he was there for work.
Yes, they had a building that they're architecting in Indianapolis, so he was out there for work.
Yeah, he scammed a work plane for his flight there.
He did try to be like, "Hey, I need to stay a little longer. Can I extend my
room
a little bit?" And they literally laughed in his face. Unsurprisingly.
Yeah, shocker.
Yeah.
He did get free flights, but his flight back was less than ideal. It was like from Indianapolis to Baltimore with like a 2-hour layover.
To Atlanta, I think.
Oh, to Atlanta. I think he ended up getting one to Baltimore that was a little earlier.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because he wasn't going to get home until like 1:30 in the morning or something like that. Anyways, we went to the block party and had some of the Gencon beer. It was a English honey ale.
English mild with honey or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Honey Buzz.
It was fine.
No, that's the name of a board game.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
But it was fine.
It was fine. Unoffensive, like all of their beers have ever been for this convention of 70,000 people.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Then went to Kilroy's.
Well, so the block party was somewhere new. Normally it's on Georgia Street, which is sort of like this plaza area east of the convention center, but there is a hotel that's going to get built over there pretty soon, and they had a bunch of barriers up that blocked a lot of the sidewalk, which meant people I don't know. It seemed like that little building that no one ever used was definitely a major seating area for everyone that would be eating at those zillion food trucks. So they moved it between the stadium and the convention center, which was significantly more space because they had the road closed off there. I think that is a way better spot to do it because you have like 2 huge parking lots that you can fill with tents, significantly more space, bunch of tables.
Just hope that it's cloudy because when it's
significantly less shade in because there wasn't much shade in the middle of the day on Georgia Street, but at least as the sun set, it would go behind the convention center where you have nothing but a coal-fired power plant to block the sun. Yeah. Just to your west there. But it was actually relatively cool while we were there, so it was fairly pleasant, if a little humid because it did rain. A bunch, as it does. Then we did Kilroy's. We did our usual 32-ounce Long Islands, and then made our mile walk back to the hotel. And then we had the actual convention that happened Thursday. What'd you guys see on Thursday?
We were just going through the convention hall. 2 things of note is that Kingdom Death was back.
And they had not been back since 2019.
Yep. So then this was the first chance for people to do a pre-order of the Gambler's Chest.
There has been online. There has been pre-orders for it, but you could get a pre-order at Gencon.
Yep.
And apparently they did have a couple copies at Gencon as well.
Oh,
oh wow.
So they recently did an update today about like how well Gencon went, and they were like, man, people are so over Kingdom Death. No one cares about us anymore. We're passé. It's been 7 years since we did this last Kickstarter. Who gives a shit about us anymore? And they're like, oh, a fuckload of people still care about Kingdom Death. So much so that there was this like teenage kid that was like, man, I love Kingdom Death, and man, I wish I could get it. But he was like, well, why didn't you do the Kickstarter? Not knowing that he was 14. And he was like, I was 7, dude. And so he went to the back and got him a copy of Gambler's Chest and fucking handed it to him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. He was like, well, you were 7. Yep. Here's a free copy.
So one thing that we did want from there were the blackout dice, which were the April Fool's dice.
Black Friday dice.
Black Friday dice, sorry.
Also his favorite dice.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason.
But these are black dice with black lettering. So they're
black background. They're literally black on black, and you can barely read them.
You can read the D10s all right, but the fucking hit location dice are so bad.
Yeah, it's just like, what blob shape is that, Paul? Can you tell us?
Yes. But I wanted to get that, but I was not going to wait in any of those lines.
No.
But by the 3rd day, like they sort of stopped doing the pre-order or something, or like all of the
shit everyone wanted was gone. So
yeah. So then I was able to get in and get the thing that I actually wanted. So
yes, which was just a set of dice.
Yep. We saw that
for Paul.
Yeah, for Paul.
Yeah.
So I saw that. We saw an insane line that we had no idea why it was there.
The story of the convention.
And it was connected to Ravensburger, which like I knew.
Would they release a new Gargoyles game?
Yeah, like they had done some Villainous and some other things, but it was like, why is this line stretching what felt like thousands of feet long out of nowhere?
And inevitably did every day.
Yeah. And it was Lorcana, the Disney
trading card
game.
It's a Disney Magic Gathering, so it's random boosters, rarities, all that stuff.
And the first time we were just like, what the fuck's going on? And then we finally saw after, like, online later that night about it, and so much so that it caused them to have to redo their line policies.
Oh, damn.
And they basically are okay, at 11 p.m. 11 or 10 p.m. we're gonna start the line for this that opens up at 10 p.m.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. the next day.
They were setting up stanchions for people to camp out all night to be first in line for Lorcana the next day.
And it was...
We were walking by in the middle of, like, late at night, and there was probably a dozen or so people in line to wait 10 hours overnight.
That.
To purchase the Disney card game, which was limited purchase, and they were hole-punching badges.
So you could literally
couldn't get back in line again and buy more.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything about this Lorcana, all the stories I've heard about, like, just the fucking obsession with it is fucking wild.
Fucking Disney adults, man. What,
Dude,
like...
Yeah.
Fucking it's crazy.
It seems interesting where it's, like, not your usual kind of, like, that sort of game, because you're, like, it's Disney themed, so you're, like, singing as, like, a mechanic in the game because it's a musical movie that you're recreating.
Like,
getting
made it less interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's about getting lore in the game, I guess, and so
Yes.
and they go on quests, so it's not just like fighting each other and that's it. It's,
yeah, you're trying to get like first to 20
yeah, and
quest points instead
up
of
to
like
6 people can play or something. Like, so it's not it's TCG, but it's not just a magic clone or anything
Sure.
like that.
yeah, I'm not just doing damage to you. I'm trying to complete all of these Disney themed quests.
Yep.
Great.
Good luck to all of those people.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of board game stores that sell Magic the Gathering singles and stuff being like, we're buying Arcana right now. Feel free to sell to us so we can resell all these cards for something absurd.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it was just like the standard amount of just going to all the different, all the different vendors, looking at things. There wasn't anything I was looking to buy there. There wasn't anything. It was just going around.
The general theme of the whole convention was no one brought their fucking A game. Everyone was just like, is it going to be normal or not? So, like, Lorcana was super big because they had it, and that just kind of came out of nowhere. There was a couple small games like Sky Team, which is like a 2-player, like pilot, co-pilot landing a plane, like hidden information game, which seemed interesting. That was selling out like crazy. That was it off the top of my head.
In terms of like, there wasn't anything that was like the one game besides that.
Sure.
So, but it was good just to see, a bunch of it was a shitload of people, like you said.
Yep. Everyone with giant fucking backpacks.
Yeah.
So there's those, your like board game backpack that sticks about 2-3 feet off your back. Like everyone had one, and then they'd just be like, I'm gonna go look at these dice and block this whole hall behind me because I have this huge fucking backpack on. And they were just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And every time they turned, they were like, I don't give a shit about anyone, and just smashing you with their fucking backpack. It's like, leave that shit in your hotel room. So that was annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone got on the fucking board game backpack train apparently this year.
Board Game Table sold a lot of them fucking things.
Yeah. So I don't remember. Was it Thursday? We went to the board game library.
Yes.
For a little bit. We played a bit of Starship Captains, which was a game we really wanted to check out last year. That was getting demoed and was out. This was a Czech Games Edition game. It's really cool components. You're just kind of flying between different planets and doing missions with your crew and getting points. It was a lot lighter than I thought it was going to be.
Same. I also, for whatever reason, thought it was going to be like somewhat cooperative. I didn't realize that it was like different captains of starships like competing for stuff, and I was like, oh, okay,
interesting.
Yeah. It was fine.
It had some cool mechanisms in it about like when you're sending people in the transporter to go do missions, and then how they queued back up into your main pile,
and then sort of feed back into your worker.
Yeah. And it was
pool.
like a physical thing that did that, so that always looks cool.
Yeah,
but
it was an interesting dual layer player board. So it starts like unfolded, and then you have little stickers that you fold it together, and it sticks permanently.
So you make the dual layer.
Yeah, so it's not pre-printed. I would assume that saves them a significant amount of money.
Yeah,
to have these foldable starships that are dual layered instead of, printing them and adding an extra $70 onto the cost.
Yeah.
Inevitably.
That's then when Jeff went to go see Oppenheimer.
So the Indiana State Museum has one of the 13 in the country that can do the full 70 millimeter IMAX.
Last time we were there, Dunkirk
had released over Gencon.
Yeah, a previous Christopher Nolan movie, and so Oppenheimer was coming in, and you're like, I still haven't seen it. So I went and saw Oppenheimer in IMAX, 70 millimeter IMAX. I vaguely remember Dunkirk not being super packed. Yeah.
This one was absolutely, completely 100% sold out.
Oppenheimer is still putting up big numbers,
Yeah.
like for being like 6 weeks later now.
Yeah. My full review of Oppenheimer 70 millimeter IMAX. You do not need to see this movie in 70 millimeter IMAX.
Correct.
Yeah.
You can go to a RTX sound
a regular big thing.
I saw it at Big Show, and I thought
Yes, that would
like
be-
even that was like more than enough. Like you could watch
Yes,
it just at a regular
absolutely.
movie theater, and you're gonna.
I think as
I
long
think
as
the sound is good.
You want good sound for it.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
I don't need the big screen, but the nice sound
There's a couple
system.
spots where the big screen was nice, but it's not.
Yeah.
I would not imagine. So when we saw Dunkirk, I remember it opened, and I actually remember going, like just being like, holy shit, this
Yes.
looks amazing.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, Oppenheimer was fine.
Yeah. So
And then during that,
Wes and I was like, fuck, who was it again? Wes and I played Legendary Encounters, The Matrix or Matrix. So this is the, we're big fans.
So their big hook on this one, standees
this time.
Oh,
Yeah.
And the reason it matters is because you can be in or out of the Matrix in this one, because the Matrix is a thing.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
And it matters in that the Matrix is the combat row. You can only attack people when you're in the Matrix.
Tracks.
You can only
buy cards
and stuff when you're outside of the Matrix.
Interesting.
and your player card is out of the Matrix.
Yes.
Okay.
And so you have your standee once a turn. You can go inside the Matrix or out, and but you have to sort of so you can't just be like, I'm going to buy, kill, and then buy. Like you have to, or I'm just going to buy every turn and then kill every. Like you have to time when you're going in and out, because there's also a time track on the left side of it, and if somebody does damage, so if you're outside of the Matrix, you can't be damaged, but if you aren't damaged on the outside of the Matrix, then you take time as like the time track takes the damage instead. And
Okay.
that is basically if that ever gets to whatever number it is, you lose. So there is a nice thing of being able to be like, oh, I would die if I stay in here. I can leave, but
now it's going to start advancing the time track.
now it's going to start advancing the time track. Also, there are, I forget what they're called. They're basically telephone booths, like phones. You use those to get in and out of the Matrix. But as the Matrix spots get covered up, there's less spots for you to leave. And if the entire combat row is filled, then you have to use the one that's in the combat zone, which costs you money to use.
Okay.
So then you're like, well, I have to leave, but then it's going to cost me money to leave, and I have less. So you're incentivized to kill like even more to clean up the combat zones. And because we did the first scenario, I was Neo, Wes was Morpheus. It actually started out pretty interesting in that, like, Act 1, I didn't have access to my powers because I was just Thomas Anderson. Like,
Sure.
I wasn't Neo yet, so I didn't get access to any of that stuff until we did, the various things you need to do. But each act has, like, a part 1 and a part 2, so there's a lot more, like, thematic things going on in the story, which was cool. And then you even have, like, training demo, the training modules that you had to complete and do certain things on. That was pretty interesting. And it was pretty funny that, like, a lot of the things happened just with our characters that happened plot wise until you had to go defeat Agent Smith on the tracks. Fucking Morpheus defeated him, and then he became the one, and he had to go do shit. That was
You were usurped.
pretty much. I got kicked out of the Matrix, and he was the only one left in because he was trying, and it was like, no, what are you doing? But there was a little part in the finale that felt like it'd be easier with more people than the two that we had. But It was really interesting. It felt different than Alien, and it definitely felt like something I would definitely consider myself getting, because like Predator felt like Alien, but
not different enough to matter.
Exactly. This one felt like it played different.
Cool.
Which is cool. Yeah.
The art was awful as always.
It's not awful. It's just it's like Terraforming Mars. It's just very inconsistent of 3 or 4 different styles.
I think the cover art is actively bad.
Oh, the cover art's very bad. Yes. The cards are anywhere
They're
from
traditional.
Yes. Yeah. But they actually were selling that, because I remember the last time you were there, they were announcing it, and so it's something I would consider buying. So
their booth was interesting. They didn't have any new encounter stuff. I mean, I guess they had the Matrix, but their big announcements was their versus system stuff.
Specifically the boys, because like it was like a new version of it. So
that is awful.
It's not good.
It's not ideal.
Yeah. But they had the like full Vought International like standee thing for their like entrance into the demo booth, where it was like standees of all the 7 all on their pedestals and stuff. It looked really cool. What was the name of the invisible guy? Not Vanisher.
Something light. I don't remember.
Yeah, the guy that can go invisible. His standee was just invisible. There was no one there because he's invisible. And then they had like 2 other themed ones that were like, okay, cool. But I like don't like the versus system or anything. So
yeah.
I was like, that's neat. You got the boys in your card game. But the booth was cool.
Yep.
Then next day, I don't really remember much. I got lunch and then met up with you guys. But Magic Sword, one of my more favorite synthwave bands, was doing a free show at Gencon.
Cool.
Ever since Carpenter Brute started having lyrics in their songs, Jeff has abandoned them and
absolutely yes. I was like, once they come out with a good album, I'll listen to them again. But the last 3 have been mediocre. But yeah, Magic Sword. They did a free show. It wasn't as big of a production because they usually have a zillion like light systems and stuff, like a normal ass venue, where this is a main ballroom of a convention center, so they couldn't have the full shebang. But you know, they played the hits. The crowd was into it. They gave everyone free swords.
There you go.
That in like half of them lasted through to the end of the show.
Yeah, those swords were light up swords were very cheap.
Well, because like people would start, like headbanging, but like, with the swords, and then it'd just be like, and it's stopped. It's off.
It's off. Forever.
Severed the connection.
Yes. So much so, the drummer came up and had one, and he was going to be like going left and right with it, and it just didn't work. And someone that was in front was like, here, and he was like, all right. Yeah, it was a good show. Zach and Wes came after they were doing whatever they were doing.
We were just drinking in the bar.
Okay.
And it was just like Jeff had tickets for it, so then Wes was like, all right, we'll just go drink or something. And then as soon as we ordered, and then it was like, oh, I'll order some food too because I'm hungry. And then as soon as we did that, Jeff was like, they're only like a half full, so you can just come. It's like you don't need a ticket.
Yeah, they said it's like ticketed people enter first, and then after that they'll just fill to capacity. And it was never anywhere more than like 70% in there, and it was like 500 people could be in there. So they arrived later.
Nice.
And then as we were walking back, I don't remember what night it was, but we were walking back from eating through the convention center to go to our hotel, and someone was like, hey, do you guys have your badges? This is like 11 p.m. at night, just walking through the halls or something. They're like, hey, do you guys have badges? And we're like, yeah, what's it matter? And they're like, oh, we're closing the convention center to people without badges after so-and-so time. And I was like, all right, here's my badge. And he's like, cool, thanks. And I was like, no, like, why do you care if I have a badge or not? This is just a hallway. And they must be cracking down on people without badges.
Well, I think
that are hanging out after the convention.
Well, I think especially because so many, like we saw way more like Werewolf and any of those social deduction games, like in the hallways after like all night. Where previously I remember seeing some, they had like hundreds and hundreds of.
And someone had mentioned in the last couple of years on Slack or Discord or something where people like coming to the convention without buying a badge and like doing events that don't require a badge around the convention are apparently an issue because there's so many people.
Yeah,
that
I've
aren't,
heard about that recently.
Yeah, but like whatever bullshit he was saying about like, oh, we closed the convention center after X amount of time. I did some research. I cannot find that fucking anywhere. So they're just like doing whatever the fuck they want.
Well, we had a badge, so whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's like if a cop asked me for ID and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
What are you, a cop? Yeah, here's my fucking badge. I'm walking to my hotel.
Yep.
I can walk outside if that makes you feel better.
And it was the next day we went to we started out and just went to Ratskeller, which is the German pub there.
Yep.
That we're always a big fan of.
I had the second best Belgian white in the world, Hoegaarden.
Hoegaarden's pretty good. I haven't had a Hoegaarden in a long time.
I hadn't either. But you know what I have had a lot of?
It's no White Rascal.
It's no White Rascal. Gold. They got a silver. Idiots.
I forget what beer I got, but then they were like, do you want the small or the big? And I was expecting like
a 20 ounce versus a half liter or whatever.
Yeah, or like even like 16 ounce versus like 24 ounce. And then they were fucking, here you go, liter of fucking beer. And I was like, oh God, I don't want that much. And so
Correct.
like even through the entire thing, I drank maybe half of it.
Yes. I don't fall for the liter anymore.
Yeah.
Because I want to drink more different things at half liter.
If I had known it was a liter, I would have said no. It was just like, once again, that small and big. And I was like, oh, it must be like that. No, it's not.
Nope.
Liter.
Yep.
Liter of cola.
Liter cola, yeah.
Yep. Then I walked over to Sun King after that, had some beers.
While Jeff was doing that, Wes and I went back to the convention. We did try 2 new games. What did it was 2. One was I did try out a bit of Ticket to Ride Legacy.
Oh yeah, okay. What do you got? What do you got to spill?
It played 5 players.
Okay.
We played the intro scenario, which is like the East Coast.
Sure.
Felt pretty much like Ticket to Ride, except for a couple things. Like one, you have color preferences, and like mine, I think it was the black lines. If every one that I like connected on, I got extra money. Good money's the thing in this now.
Okay.
Which I think is just like points at the end of the game. It probably is going to be used for more, but like that's all it sort of was now. There are several times where we're like, what's this mean? And she's like, I'm not allowed to tell you. And we're like, yeah, okay, all right.
It's like a lot of those legacy demos.
Exactly, yeah. And then there were event cards that came up that would like change, like, you know, make little rule changes every once in a while until the next one came up. But other than that, it
looked like a puzzle board.
Yes. So instead of
stickers,
it looks like you're going to unlock puzzle and just literally expand it out. So it's, you know, you don't have the entire board yet. You're just creating the board piece by piece.
I could see that working decently well.
Yeah.
Certainly connects better.
Yeah, I think we won't have those issues of like the sticker just being like, fuck,
I got stickers right on the fucking fold.
Yeah, barely
that
got
came
it
up
off
in
shit.
Clank Legacy quite a bit.
It did, yeah. And that one has a lot of connections, so it would be. I think it's a novel approach, and depending on what kind of game it is, it may be worthwhile. Other people do it too. We'll see. Yeah. I do know that Wes was interested more in playing it after he got it, after we did that, of like actually getting a copy of it.
I think he actually started a group chat.
He did, yes.
That I'm in on for maybe doing a group of it.
Yes.
I think Megan passed.
Yes. Are you still interested in it?
I'm still interested.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Because I think we're now full, so Megan's just shit out of fucking luck.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I'd asked her, I was like, are you interested in you know, like Ticket to Ride Legacy? And she was like, maybe after we finish all the other fucking Legacy games. And I was like,
dunked right in your face.
All right, well, you're out, and joke's on you.
Guess I'm starting another Legacy game.
Joke's on you.
Yeah.
I'm starting another Legacy game.
I'm going to
start another one that I won't finish. So we did that, and then we tried Tokaido Duo, which I do enjoy Tokaido, the base one, but it's very much just a walking game, and it really doesn't have that, feels like it doesn't have that many decisions.
Sure.
This one, the Duo, you basically have like 3 figures. One is you're just walker dude that's just walking around like normal. The other one is like a merchant that's trying to sell, you know, get goods cheap one place, sell them to the other. And then another one's a painter trying to go around and paint all these different things and then deliver them to other spots.
Okay.
And then on your turn, you roll 3 dice and you get to choose one of those. Like each die represents one of the people and how far they move. And So on your turn, you choose one of those dice to then move around, and then your opponent rolls the dice and then chooses 3. I thought it was going to be how we had someone explain the game to us, and then we had someone else actually teach us the game. Like they were 2 different employees.
Okay.
Because we were waiting, and so we were talking to him, and I got a different thought on how it worked while he was saying it, and then the person that actually taught us the game, it came across a lot looser than I was expecting. So I still want to look more to see, because it seemed a lot more interesting when it was a lot tighter and like you could control more of like what your opponents were doing. But how it came across in the demo that Wes and I played was very much just I'm gonna do my thing, you do your thing, and then at some point someone's gonna win.
Oh
yeah. So
womp womp.
Yeah. But how was Sun King?
Sun King was fine. I just tried some beers they had, new stuff, and even so much that they were like running out of stuff by the time Wes and I went back on Sunday, because we had time to kill before our flights and went back.
Sure.
They're like, well, we can kill time at the convention, or we can go drink before the airport.
In the brewery.
Yeah. Also, the service that Sunday that we went to Sun King was awful.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They were busy, but it was only like the tables were busy, but the tables had like servers, and then the bar was full, and then there was like these other like three or 4 other tables that you could sit at that were technically bar service, but the bartender was also making cocktails because they have a distillery. So the bartender had to serve all of the bar and all the tables at the bar and make the cocktails for everyone at the tables. So we didn't get service for over 30 minutes.
Jesus fuck.
Sitting there like nothing. Like multiple tables were coming in after us. Like no one was getting anything because I don't know. There was like 2 servers, and all they could do is wait for their stuff to get poured. And it was like, cool. Are we ever going to get served? Until finally, it must have been a manager or a lead or something came over and was like, hey, what do you guys want? 30 minutes later.
God damn.
Yeah.
Hard pass.
Yeah. How about someone like do cocktails and someone else like serve?
Yeah.
Or expand the service area to these other tables.
Seriously.
Or put one more bartender on there. As someone that works at a very busy, large brewery, there's a million things they could have done that they did not do. But the beer was fine.
Gotcha.
Hot Games Room.
Yep.
We did an event that was getting tickets to the BGG Hot Games Room because we've wanted to play the hot games, but they don't always make their way to the big library that's in the Colts Stadium. And it was only like $4 for the hot games.
So normally we do, like you said, we do it's either 10 or $12 for the stadium, and then that's many hours. This one
like 10 hours.
Yeah, this one was $4 for 2 hours.
Yep.
But we just bought 2 blocks back to back.
Yeah.
And all we had to do was just be like, as it came through, they scanned our badge, and then just because they had like a card, so it was like
they had playing cards. So there was like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. It's like your 2, your 3, your 4, etc.
Of when you basically were done, and then as 4 came close, they scanned our badge, gave us a 6, it kept on going.
Yep.
So I definitely think next year we should take advantage of that more.
Yes.
Because I was always a little worried that it would just be like too much of a clusterfuck, but it was not.
That it was a smidge of a cluster, mostly because the hot games that you would want to play that were hot were always checked out and you could not play.
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
No.
But we were able to play 2 of the games that we wanted to Wes wanted to try out one called Barcelona, about rebuilding Barcelona or building Barcelona. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's just building.
And then the other one was the landmarks.
Cascadia landmarks.
Oh.
Yes. The problem with that is that you also had to rent out
a base copy.
And so...
And then you have to combine the components and then take apart the components because you need to return them as separate games.
Yeah. I don't understand.
That took a lot.
I don't understand.
It took a lot of time to put
I don't
them
know why
together
they just
and
didn't put
separate
them
them
together. I mean, the only reason I could see is if someone being like, I've never played Cascadia, but you don't need...
Cascadia.
Have a couple copies of just Cascadia and have a couple copies of Cascadia with landmarks.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah.
Landmarks was interesting. The landmarks are cool.
Yep.
It's like these little meeples that give you specific scoring conditions for certain biomes.
Okay.
They unlock by, I think it's when you put your 4th or 5th one down.
Yeah.
You can choose one of the available cards, and then you take that landmark and you put it on
that tile you just placed.
Here's the thing, though, is that, normally in Cascadia, you have like 3 or so open spaces. That takes place
where an animal could go.
Where an animal could go.
So now you have less open spaces.
Now you have less open space. So as you take more of those, you have less and less available spots on any given.
So you're taking the tile and the animal. You're placing the tile.
Yes.
Then you're potentially placing a landmark, and then you still place the animal that turn.
Yes.
So you're placing 2 things that turn.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's making the game significantly tighter.
Okay.
You don't have as much free roam space to kind of willy-nilly put shit wherever you
like
want.
that.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah. And each one of those is different. And
yeah, there's like 7 different for each biome, and you only ever play with
4 or however many people you're.
Yeah, I think it's player count.
Player count. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was definitely interesting. I definitely think it's something worth trying. They also added new tile configurations of like how they connect.
Yeah. It was sort of weird. It's like a U, like, there's like 2 that are one, and then it's like a U around the others, where before it wouldn't ever like wrap around weirdly like that.
So instead, like, it would be like 2 spaces, like it would be like half of it's like desert and the other half is like mountain. This one is like a U, so it's you can use it to like cap off a mountain, but it doesn't extend it. It's just desert otherwise.
Yeah. Some interesting new shapes, but they look weird on the tiles.
I definitely thought you meant that they're like, because the starting tile is like 3 hexes.
Correct.
And so I thought you were saying that it was like different orientations of like the 3 hexes.
But there is also new starting tiles. Yeah, it's and the scoring was new and interesting. They added a bunch of new scoring tiles. And even the landmarks will add new ways that you can score as well.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
But each landmark pile looks like they all have the same scoring in each one. So like a mountain doesn't have a unique card that's different from grassland. It's just grassland versus mountain that we've seen.
Yeah. It could also be, because it's like use all of the A's, and like all of the A's is like the same thing, but for each one of the biomes.
Yeah.
And it's like use A, B's, and C's. But yeah. It definitely seems like it's adding something extra to the game, and it's making it tighter, which is always a good thing.
But if you combine all of the tiles together, you still need to cut. Like the amount of tiles that come with landmarks is almost as much that come with the base game. So you're going to be culling like half the game's worth of tiles every time you play the game.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Because before it was like, if you're playing with 4 players, take 2 tiles out of the game. Now it's take 24 tiles out of the game because there's that many more tiles.
Yeah, if you're only playing with 2 players, it's like...
Yeah.
You
can be like,
you should be counting how many you need to have.
Yeah, take 20 tiles and then you're good.
Yeah.
And I hope the rule book actually has that.
It does. And it was actually a little confusing because it didn't say specifically in the rule book like how it was like parenthesed which one you should be keeping versus taking. It was a little confusing. It's like, it was like, this is including the like certain starter ones.
But as soon as we looked it up, then it was fine.
Yes.
But
I was like, that's confusing.
Yeah. So we played that, and then we played Barcelona, which
was interesting. We didn't finish because we played that after, and we ran out of time. But we got most of the way through the game,
especially because it took like 40 minutes for us to learn. That is
it was a heavy teach.
It was a heavier game. And so when you're like, just have 2 hours, we basically had 2 hours to play, and 40 minutes of that was learning the game.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see it. I think it said 60 to 90 minutes.
Yeah, totally.
Could definitely see playing in that. But it's very much a game of like, when we saw the demo of it, the guy was like, I get to do this, which gets me points and lets me do this, which lets, like, it had a bunch of combos.
Sure.
Which I'm always a big fan of.
Yeah.
But it's a very busy board.
Yes.
But once it was explained and we figured out how everything was, it made sense, I felt.
Yes. It's basically a grid of Barcelona, which is all kind of like these very square blocks with transit systems. And you are placing citizens of like low class, middle class, high class in intersections. And then the actions, like to the top and to the right of that intersection, are the actions you get to do that round. And then you get to build. Well, you have to build. And what buildings you can build depend on the color of citizens that are around that block.
There's also like 4 or 5 boards in this game.
Yes,
so.
There's a board that you get to cover up, that once you cover things up, you get that benefit, as well as like a row benefit or something like that. There's also a building board that you get to put out there, and then there's like a cathedral board that you're slotting in bonus points on your personal player board.
I appreciate these artistic pictures they take,
pissing me off,
but it is not good at all when you're trying to see how the game actually looks.
Yeah. Jesus.
And then there's a ton of like passengers that are on your board that once you move your tram car, you get to like drop your passengers off, and then you get a bunch of points based on where your passengers go. You're also building the roads and intersections between all of the buildings. When you put a road down, you get a benefit that's underneath. If you put an intersection down, it's sort of like if someone else goes there, you get a benefit.
Mm-hmm.
The buildings have like 3 levels. So if you like purchase the level 1 tier, someone can build a level 2 on top of that, or a level 3, but your cube from that level 1 continues on there. So it's a little bit of area control about like who built the building. And if you build like 2 of the 3, you get 2 of the 3 cubes that can go on there.
Okay.
There's also like half buildings that are kind of on those weird, like angled
Corner
intersections.
pieces, yeah.
Those kind of go through the diagonal area. What is cool is the actions are variable that are on each intersection. Those are just tiles that you put out. They can be random or they can be certain setups.
So certain areas will be more in demand in one game than they would be in the other. It has its own printed ones that you can do as a base, but you can just do them varied if you want.
Yep.
The scoring is interesting because it's based on when you're scoring a building, or when you're scoring the people, like the residents, because they're based off of like what numbers are uncovered, like whatever the lowest one is. So if you just go in on one particular type, it may cover like the numbers that are like 4, 10, etc. But like the 2 is still uncovered, so you're just going to score 2 points. And so
that's its own fun track that I don't think is even
it's
on
there.
this.
It is. It's right on. It's on that.
Oh
board.
yeah, it's on the main board.
Yeah.
And then that's your like 3 phases of the game. As you fill those up, it hits scoring milestones.
Yep.
Okay.
It was good. I liked it. There's also a track with some sort of politician on it that like you go up and down on.
It sounds like a boat track. Paul's not gonna like it.
It's more of a vertical column than a circular.
It's not a track. It just goes up and down.
It goes up and down, and
maybe he'll be okay.
And it goes up and down based on like the class of building you're making. It seems like, but you do get benefits on that on like certain scoring things
because he adds like multipliers for other scores that you have. So
you also have like an inventory system to where you need to put out your little tiles on the benefit like square grid that like the more of those
like
tiles
scythe, you take them off, things appear.
Yep.
Or Terra Mystica.
Yep.
So
so you can have more resources based on the more you have out there, and then like the more intersections you have out, the more benefits you get, the more roads you put out, the more passengers you put out. And then like as you put passengers, you can upgrade your like end game scoring points to be like ×2, ×4, ×3, and depending on where you put your benefit and where you upgrade depends on where you can get that. So there's a some would say point salads worth of bullshit in this game.
Yes, gotcha. Yep.
But yeah, it was really good and it looked good. But it is majorly fiddly. Don't bump that board or you are fucked.
Yeah.
But they're nice. They're that nice chunky cardboard, which I love.
Yep.
Right
on. And to close out the convention, we played 2 games with friend of the show, Nick.
Saturday night.
Yep. Because we didn't have anything else to do, and
we actually wanted to try these games,
and he had cool games, so.
Perfect combination.
Yes. We started with Thunder Road Vendetta, which is a restoration games game.
Wait, he had restoration games? I don't believe that.
So this one is kind of a Mad Maxy sort of racing game with personal player powers. You have like a small, medium, large vehicle, also a helicopter. You roll dice, but it's just like dice placement. You just need kind of a range to be able to activate whatever you're doing. And then you kind of go down this sort of arrow, 6-lane random asphalt versus hazard versus sand versus solid walls, and shoot at each other and ram into each other. And like,
is this themed at all after Mad Max Fury Road?
This was from the 70s,
Okay,
so
unlikely.
But
No.
I would say that they lean heavily more into that kind of thing in this.
According to Nick, so the board is basically endless until somebody is defeated, in which case then the end goal appears.
A finish line appears.
The finish line appears. And he said, like, he's played it several times, and he said we were by far the quickest to immediately just attack and try and kill each other.
So there's a
That sounds right.
There's a slam maneuver that if you move onto another vehicle, they all fit nice together. They all have this little bump where you can put your vehicle on top of the other vehicle and it sits there real nice.
There is a small, medium, and a large
Yes.
vehicle.
So the large can go on top of the small if you want. But then there's a like scatter die for all 6 spaces around you, and then a top or bottom. And it's if you roll the die and it's like bottom car moves here or top car moves here. But if you're bigger than them, you can re-roll the die if you want to. And it's more die faces for the bottom car than the top car.
Yep.
Okay.
It's like 2 facing for the top car and like 4 for the bottom car or something.
Sure.
And it's if you are the bigger car and you go into a smaller car, you get to re-roll or you can re-roll if you want.
Yes.
If you're a smaller car and you hit a bigger car, they can make you re-roll if they want.
Yes.
So it goes both like disadvantage and advantage.
Yeah.
So
And then the die tells you what space you're going to go into. Once we had all moved onto the board, we were all kind of right next to each other, and we slammed probably a chain of 5 or 6 times in a row of multiple people having to roll the die as people were flung everywhere.
Because if I hit Jeff and Jeff gets hit into you, that's another slam you guys roll, and then maybe you somehow get knocked into me. That's another roll, and it was just,
and then he can go right back into you, and
it was
it's a colossal chain reaction.
Yeah.
But you also have helicopters that are on the board, and if you get slammed into a helicopter, you die because it has its blades, fucking scissoring across the ground.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. And so everyone's helicopters are around. There's a ton of hazards that are on the ground that if you go into them, you flip it over and it's just like, well, it's a wall, you die.
It's a pit, you die.
Yep.
Or it's a ramp and you fly up in the air.
We never found any ramps, sadly.
It's fire. You are now on fire.
Zach's whole character was, I get to set myself on fire for free and I take no negatives from fire.
Yeah, because fire can make you go faster, but you
yes,
get a 1 in 6.
You get a fire die that you roll that you get that many
And
additional
you have
spaces.
a 1 in 6 chance of just exploding. I wouldn't explode.
He just doesn't explode.
I didn't
so
explode.
he can't.
You're meant to
immediately
be
die.
on fire.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Design philosophy.
There was at one point where all
He also has a flamethrower that can light himself or other people on fire.
Yeah, there was a time when all 3 of my things were on fire, but then also my guys died. Most of my guys died pretty quickly. We all although Jeff, who was it? No, it wasn't Jeff. It was Nick. Somebody's died immediately each time because normally
that was me.
That was you. Normally, you go ahead.
Every time I had a fairly risky move, it would immediately kill me.
Yep.
It would just be like I would move somewhere and I was like, maybe it's basically we had a bunch of clear spaces, like nothing bad was going on. I was like, I can just go into this. And it was like, wall, you're dead.
Normally, if you take 1 damage, you get a damage thing that affects your car in some way. 2, you get a second one, your car is out of commission, and then you can heal it. But if your car ever gets flown off, like into a helicopter, into a pit, into a wall,
or off the course,
your car is just dead. And every time Jeff had a chance to get
I
damage,
literally never,
he would just die.
I never took damage. I immediately died.
Yeah.
I mean, you're all or nothing.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I went onto the edge of the board, and it ended up being wreckage, and it was like, okay, the wreckage counts as another car for slamming. Cool. Slam, I got thrown off the edge of the board. Dead. I was racing towards the end. I think I was in the lead. I went over a space, and it was like, well, I don't really have any other option. I go over the space. Boom, you're dead.
Yep.
And then I think I had to try and like drive past, and I slammed into someone that was around a bunch of walls. Boom, top car into the wall. You're dead.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, you sort of got to lean into that because that's what the game is.
Yeah, totally.
There are 2 expansions that came in his version. One was like,
Well, he bought
the
version that had
the Chrome version.
Yeah.
But it's
shiny and chrome.
Bike like 4 or 5.
Well, it adds the personal player powers.
Yes,
there's more of those.
Yep.
Which I highly recommend.
And then a set that's just like 4 or 5 bikes that are all.
I think it's like 6.
Oh, it's 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
That they're a lot easier to damage, but you can have 6 of them. And then there's also a big rig.
Yeah, you have no cars, just bikes.
Yeah.
And then you have a big rig, and it's just one large vehicle with 3 trailers behind it. So you have no other vehicles except one big one. And it gets to smash through shit.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was fun.
Cool.
And then
for that chaotic mess that you want it to be.
Yes, it is an absolute chaotic mess. But all the components are super fun, good quality, little Hot Wheels-esque cars.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
Cool. What was the other game?
Then we played 3 Ring Circus, which was a hot game.
Yep. By Denvier or whatever their name is. It's the same people that did Red Cathedral.
Okay.
But it is we're competing circus owners.
It's a tableau building area control circus game.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 3 different types of cities that you can go around to perform in. Small ones get you money. Medium is where you get like good performers, and then the large ones are where you make your big points, like you make your big shows. But you can get like basic performers.
So money is cards. Money is certain cards, and each of those cards has certain like level of performers on it. And then there's tickets that you get from the medium one that has like different performers on it. And then the other one is you have to have a certain type of card at a certain number or higher, with a certain color of card less than value and a certain card higher than value. And then you will get the most points out of your Washington, D.C., New York, Boston, big city shows.
Gotcha.
And then if you do one of those shows first, you get the most points.
Okay.
Second, third, etc.
Yep.
And then the medium-sized cities have like a single space that like you have a performance track that goes between 2 and 10. But if you do a performance at a certain level, you are the only one that can do a performance at that certain level. If you do a 7, no one else can do a 7. You put your little guy there.
Yep. And that's where you get the bigger performers, is through those tickets.
Yep. Yeah, and then it's like a bunch of zones a la Power Grid, where you have a bunch of circus tents instead of power plants, and it's area control. So the big Barnum and Bailey is cruising, doing a big country circle. They start in Boston, and as soon as they get to Chicago, it scores that first area. And then it goes to Indianapolis and scores that one, and then Washington, D.C., then New York, and then Boston. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 scoring rounds.
For the area control portion.
Yep. So you want to kind of focus on the Chicago area first, and then the Indianapolis area. And then a lot of us were still learning the game, and we're like, well, no one's in Chicago, so no one really gets much. And then we learned how things score, and then we're like, oh, fuck, Indianapolis is next. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
But the Barnum and Bailey circus only moves one city at a time each time we perform. So the less we perform, the slower it goes. And we have our own little circus dudes that are moving along all of these different cities as well.
And they also only go to cities that no one has performed at, except the big ones. So if we have a lot of spots along the way, it could easily move like twice and go from like one scoring round to another scoring round.
Okay.
Because we've already filled up
Yeah.
all of those spaces in between.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then you have a tableau in front of you. You have like 3 endgame scoring spots that you get throughout the game. But under each of these spots is like extra money, extra movement, extra this or that. So as you fill up with performers, you move slower, you get less money, you have more, which I can only assume like represents like upkeep and just like having to haul more stuff around.
There's some cards that can add those back, but then you're not using them elsewhere. But it also has fuck, I just lost it because the screen went away.
Oh,
that's fine. Each of the performers that you're hitting, so say like they can be anywhere. Like the cheaper ones are like 1 to 5, and then the higher risk ones are like, or the higher ones are like 6 to 15. If you put a 5 down and then you later decide to put a 7 down in that same row, you have a discount of 5. So that only costs you 2. So each column or each row, you only technically like spend a maximum of whatever your highest level card is.
Okay.
And then so if I ended up putting like a 10 down and then I put a 9 down, I actually put the 9 in front of the 10 and I like move the 10 over, but I don't have to pay anything for it.
Okay.
So if you invest early on with a big card, then you're not screwed with those little cards to fill it in early, to fill it in later.
Gotcha.
So
cool.
yeah, it was a nice little, I don't know if I'd call it medium weight.
I would
call it medium to light,
Yeah.
maybe.
in that one, everybody else had a much bigger board presence than I did, but I invested heavily into cards that got me points on my tableau, and I ended up pulling out the victory with that.
Nice.
So-
Yeah, I also didn't have a ton on the board, but I got like 30 points from my tableau, which rocketed me into third.
Great.
I made a critical error in asking a question and not getting the full answer on it, because the big cities have a specific number on them. It's like, does this mean I have to have a blue 14? And they were like, yes. And I was like, okay, I have a blue 15, which totally fucks me. And then later it was like, no, it's
Equal
14
to or
or higher.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I could have performed there first and gotten a bunch of money, and I wouldn't have moved to this other area where I could get stuff. So it was a lot of just minor actions that could get me minimal points.
See, if you hadn't have asked it and just assumed that it was
just,
fine,
just fucking go, man.
the worst would have happened would be like, you go to the wrong place and then we're like, Jeff, you dumb piece of shit.
You can't fucking do that.
Yeah.
God.
And your game would,
you know what? It's too late now. We've already done like 2 more rounds. And
yeah. I enjoyed it. I liked it.
yeah.
Cool.
And I think that was it for the entirety of Board Games and Gen Con.
There we go.
I had a 50-minute delay. I didn't get home till 11:30 that night.
Ouch.
Yeah. Glad I took the Monday off. And also I was sick. And then I was
Yeah,
off work
you were
for
sick as shit.
an additional 2 more days.
Which worked out well for us playing Baldur's Gate.
Yes.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
Because he was sick, but not that sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Monday was bad.
Yeah.
But I could function.
You have to be pretty sick to not be able to sit inside a room and play a video game.
Correct.
He was a little hoarse in some of his,
It was hard to talk sometimes without coughing.
Yeah.
And, or laugh without coughing.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Or be like, Zach, fucking stop doing that.
Zach, stop walking into the room first.
Look, all right.
Zach, there's enemies there. Don't go that way. Oh, you're dead? Well, Minotaurs will do that to you.
Yeah. Yes, they will. Yeah. I should have expected them to be around where they were.
In the Underdark.
Yeah. We never dealt with them ever again, did we?
No, we have never seen them before or since. There is a lot of very unique enemies that you'd never see again.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the
Totally.
one time.
Yeah.
Like there was that weird burrow monster.
Oh,
a
yeah.
boulette, I believe.
Yes, that you also found.
Yeah. I also found, I was like, oh, what's with all these people that are stone? What's going on here? And then we found out.
Well, that's not the boulette. That
Nope,
was
that was-
the...
That was a different thing.
That's a different thing. And like most of
I think it was literally the last thing we did in the Underdark too.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Most of my fuck ups, we at least can make it through. And then it's just like, Zach, stop it. But we still but we weren't like, oh, we all died except for the once.
Except for the
once.
Yes. So far.
Perfect.
If I get the one staff that I want in Act 3, I'm going to be switching over to Draconic Bloodline instead of Wild Magic.
Cool.
So, yeah. A lot of lightning damage.
On that note, let's wrap up this episode.
Yes.
All right.
Because it has been a 2-hour beast of an episode. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're glad to be back. And we'll be back in like 2 more weeks with another episode. Until then, as always, I've been your host, Adrian.
I'm still Zach.
And I'm Sentinel Jeff.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.